Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first ever Thrilling 32 Hall of Fame induction. Danny, you know we've been through the Thrilling 32 brackets. We've revealed our steel and wood coasters, but we decided to do something a little bit different this year and induct a roller coaster for the first time ever into the Thrilling 32 Hall of Fame. Now, Danny, why don't you give us an idea of what this Hall of Fame is all about?
Yeah, so, you and I discussed this a little bit as we came to the end of the Thrilling 32, and we wanted a way to sort of recognize rides that maybe aren't necessarily going to win every year. Maybe in the future we will induct some winners or some repeat winners and whatnot. We will see, but we wanted a way to sort of, the way we described it is, we have hundreds and hundreds of voters every year, and all those voters have a say in the results of the Ride Warrior Choice Awards and the Thrilling 32, specifically the coaster rankings. And everybody has a say in that, right? And then we have the bracket challenge where everyone tries to predict the rankings. That's well documented. We've been doing that for many years now, and it's one of our favorite things. But then we talked about, well, you and I, as the founders of the Thrilling 32, really. I started it through the blogs. The first year I started writing for COASTER-net, and then you and I sort of morphed it into the YouTube bracket challenge and doing the actual selection show and all that. So you and I kind of wanted a little piece of the Thrilling 32 to kind of keep for ourselves and to recognize rides that you and I felt were deserving of special recognition. So we've come up with a single sentence here that will be our official mission statement, if you will. So here is the Thrilling 32 Hall of Fame mission statement, since this is the first time we're kind of putting this out to the world here. So the Thrilling 32 Hall of Fame aims to highlight those roller coasters operating or defunct that are deserving of special recognition for having a lasting impact on the amusement industry as selected by the Thrilling 32 Foundation. That being you and I, the two founders of the Thrilling 32 here. And we're going to start by inducting one coaster tonight as our inaugural inductee. And we are going to, in subsequent years, induct more roller coasters. We thought it would be good to start off with just one for now. We'll see how the years progress, but we figure for now we'll definitely do at least one a year. If there's some sort of outstanding circumstance that warrants a second nominee in a particular year, we can discuss that then. And then what we'll do, we'll announce the inductee for the year, and then we'll talk a little bit about it and why it was selected. Think about this, the Golden Ticket Awards, right? They have their wood and steel coaster ranks, but then they have their publishers' picks, right? They pick Mark of the Year, Supplier of the Year, Person of the Year. They do those sort of things, and those are just really the people from Amusement Today. Not all the voters. Those are the people who actually write the magazine, right? And they kind of get to keep those picks for themselves. So you can kind of think of the Thrilling 32 Hall of Fame as our publishers' picks. So, Andy, would you like to announce the very first inductee into the Thrilling 32 Hall of Fame? It is one very near and dear to both of our hearts.
Absolutely. This is a ride that I think is totally deserving as being the first ever inductee to the Thrilling 32 Hall of Fame. Like you said, one that both of us really, really love. One that I think a lot of people really love out there as well. A coaster that is defunct, that I think what really speaks to this ride's, likability, to its lasting impact in the industry, is one that when I go on message boards, people are really lamenting not being able to ride it. So it is one that closed down very recently. And that is our first ever Thrilling 32 Hall of Fame inductee. That is Dueling Dragons, also known as Dragon Challenge to some. But it is officially our first Hall of Famer for the roller coasters and for the Thrilling 32. Danny, what are some of your thoughts on, I know we've talked about Dueling Dragons a lot. We've talked a lot about, Dragon Challenge a lot. But some of your thoughts of why you think that maybe this one deserves a little bit more, deserves to be a Hall of Famer, if you will?
Yeah, Dueling Dragons has a lot of significance for me personally. First and foremost, it was Dueling Dragons was one of the very first large steel coasters that I rode as a coaster enthusiast back in the mid-2000s when I first started getting really into roller coasters. I've ridden a few big ones as a kid, but Dueling Dragons was really the first ride that I rode that kind of got me started into the coaster enthusiast world. I think it was 2005, 2006, back in the old Lost Continent days. And likewise, my brother Jackson, Thrilling 32 champion this year, way back when, was also the first big roller coaster that I got to ride with Jackson, really, and really started Jackson into the coaster enthusiast world of things. So there's a lot of personal sentimental value, and you and I were very vocal about our thoughts when Dueling Dragons was announced that it would be removed. So that's from a personal standpoint, but from an industry standpoint, there's lots of different reasons that Dueling Dragons is deserving of this recognition here. First of all, the technological innovation, which was way ahead of anything we had ever seen before. The synchronization of the lift hills based on the weights of the chain, the fact that the computer system could adjust the speeds of the chain to allow the trains to meet at any one of the three locations, or randomize it at one of the three near-miss locations throughout the course. Again, going back to that, the actual engineering and the aesthetic design of the ride, having those near misses, having those interactions, which was something that had never really quite been done before, certainly not on a steel coaster. We had your racing wooden coasters, but the near misses that Dueling Dragons had with the other train and other objects, the Cobra roll going up against the castle wall and the Ice Dragon was something that not a lot of rides had done before. And moving along with that, the theme and the backstory that came along with Dueling Dragons, the incredible amount, the attention to detail in the original queue, which if you have not seen it, there are some YouTube videos, or Coaster Image still has the gallery of all the photos of the original queue, and the attention to detail and the story that was told throughout the original queue of Dueling Dragons still has yet to be matched by something I've experienced myself. You can share your thoughts here or there, but those are the big things that always stuck out and what turned Dueling Dragons from what you could argue is really just an unthemed set of steel inverted roller coasters that do some cool stuff to one of the most memorable experiences that any coaster enthusiast would have had the privilege of experiencing.
Well, and I think what speaks to that is so many people have this ride still ranked very highly in their rankings. You have it in your top 25. I have it in my top 30. So many others still have this rank that when you collect the ballots every year, Dueling Dragons Dragon Challenge is always up there in a lot of rankings. Obviously not enough to be in the top 32 this year, but it has been in the 32 in past years. Also taking home the Ride Warrior Choice Award for Best Queue Line, I believe, this year as well.
Yes.
And so it has a whole lot of accolades out there. And I think people just really loved that ride. Now, I never rode it as Dueling Dragons. I only rode it as Dragon Challenge. But, when I was looking at Universal Islands of Adventure, a park that took me a long time to get to, that I always wanted to get to, and finally when I got there, riding Dragon Challenge was one of the big reasons why I wanted to get there. I love inverted coasters. My love for Raptor. My love for other inverts as well. So riding these two inverts, and I do count them as two separate credits because that's also a very unique thing about it, is having two completely different rides packed into a small little area with the interactions that you can get a completely different experience on Chinese Fireball or Hungarian Horntail or Fire or Ice, however you want to call it. that having that ability to have two completely different experiences. And I can tell you the first time I rode it, I got right off the ride, went right back on to get on the other half. And then I did it again over and over and over because it was that good. Even if there was a little bit of a wait on it or even a longer wait, those were rides that I wanted to ride every single time I went to Universal. And let me say this now, Islands of Adventure is not the same place without that ride. Maybe in the future they'll find something to replace, Dueling Dragons. Maybe it's the Harry Potter ride. Maybe it's the Jurassic Park ride that's rumored. I don't know what's going to happen, but right now, for me, Islands of Adventure is a lesser place having lost Dueling Dragons, and that makes me sad. And I think it makes a lot of enthusiasts sad out there. Like I said, that on a lot of message boards, a lot of messages, YouTube comments, people saying that they're really sad that they did not get the chance to ride Dueling Dragons, or that they did ride it many times and they really miss it. So I think that's why all the things, the innovation, the actual, how great roller coasters they were. The theming was amazing. Even the Harry Potter theming wasn't terrible. It was still really cool to walk through the dungeon, the Triwizard Cup and all that great stuff.
It wasn't in recent years what it was originally, and like you said, it was a fantastic ride from day one up until the very last day that trains went through those loops. And the rides were always great. The experience changed. At some point they ceased to be the Dueling Dragons.
And it was still a great ride. It was still a great ride, even though they didn't duel.
Well, and that's the thing I've always said is people said, well, Dueling Dragons wasn't special anymore when they stopped dueling. Partially, yes, but Dueling Dragons really failed to be the special experience when the original theming went away. We told the story here about the original idea behind the Lost Continent. When Islands of Adventure opened, there were 5 themed islands: Superhero Island, Toon Lagoon, Seuss Landing, Jurassic Park, and the Lost Continent. And the Lost Continent was the only one of those 5 areas where there was not an IP attached to it. And maybe that's why it's the one that's, kind of withering away here. But the beautiful thing about the Lost Continent was that it was the only area where Universal, they had free range with their imagination. They could think up anything they wanted to. They weren't bounded by the limits of the IPs that they were attached to. And the story behind the Lost Continent was that that's where myths and legends went once they were forgotten to live forever. And the question was, now that the Lost Continent is gone, and if that's where the dragons were supposed to go to live on forever, where do they go now that they've been forgotten from the Lost Continent? And, the
answer is, Danny Miller, the Thrilling 32 Hall.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So, the dragons may be no more in a physical sense, but the dragons have a place to live forever here in the Thrilling 32 Hall of Fame.
So we'd like to thank you once again for all your participation throughout the entire Thrilling 32. We've said it before. Thank you very much. And we thought that this was a nice little capstone to the whole event through the Ride Warrior Choice Awards, the bracket challenge, the reveal of the Thrilling 32 champions. We really, really appreciate all of your participation. Overwhelming numbers, by far the most watched ever Thrilling 32. Great participation, most participation in the poll and the bracket challenge. We had great numbers throughout the whole thing, and we wouldn't have those without you. And now hopefully you can join us in celebrating a fine roller coaster or roller coasters, depending on how you look at it, in Dueling Dragons. So as always, I am Andy Robarchek from Chicago, Illinois.
And I'm Danny Miller from Binghamton, New York.
Right on, Ride Warriors.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.